My name is Bernard Cawley, and this is my father, Charlie Cawley, and we're going to have some tales from the old days. Daddy, is there any famous relatives in our family?
Well, yeah, I had an auntie one time, Maggie Barry, they used to call her. I think everybody knows her. Now, she used to play picture cues. She used to play a banjo, and she'd play the picture cues or play at horse racing or on the street.
Yeah.
And she was playing one time outside of a picture cue in Dundalk, and there was an American standing there, and he was listening to her singing and playing. She was a great old ballad singer. And when she was finished, he asked her, would she go to America to an Irish folk singing, or
Yeah.
can't pronounce the word right, but similar to that. And she said that she wouldn't have the money to get the bus from Dundalk to Drogheda. He says, if you're willing to come, I'll pay your fare to America. I'll set you up in a house that time, a lodging house or something they'd call it. And he said, we'll take it from there. So that's where she made herself a millionaire in America. She was half of her life there. She left, she was separated from the husband, and she went to America and stayed for years on end, and singing all over, and won trophies for singing, and got plenty of money. But then she took sick in America, and she wanted to come home to die. And they lived in a little village outside Newry called Downpatrick. Banbridge. And she came home after all them years, so her daughters was home there, and she decided, her husband took her in and decided, well, she's on her way out, we'll do our best for her. But he got delayed because he knew she was a millionaire, and he knew he was going to be left with a right few quid. So when she died, the few pound he had, he forked it out to give her a good burial. Done everything he could, give her a nice burial, and paid for it out of his own pocket, thinking that he was going to be left with a load of money. So then he went on to the solicitor a short while after, and he said to the solicitor, sir, he says, I want to know, did my wife make a will? Oh, did he? She did, he says. He said, I wonder was I mentioning it? He said, there was only two names on the will. You're one of them. So he thought straight away he was the first man on the will, and his eldest daughter would have been the second one. So the solicitor said, next week, come up to me at such a time, I'll be reading the will.
Yeah.
So he went up, got up at all hours of the morning to get the solicitor to find out how much he was at to being left. And the solicitor read out the will. He said, Mr. Barry, Paddy Barry, the man's name was, Mr. Barry, he says, your wife made the will. She left all her money to the Cat and Dogs home in Newry, and she willed you her banjo. And then there was another old man used to live in Tullamore, a fellow called Christy Quinn. Christy McDonough, but Christy Quinn, everyone knew him as. Now, he was a very old man when he died. Now, he was in the Red Coats the time in the army. I don't remember the Red Coats myself. I'm old enough, but still I never remember them. I never heard of them. But he was also in the Irish army. I think it was in Limerick or Cork. I'm not really sure where he joined up first. But then what he done, he broke away from the Irish army, and he went to England, because that time it'd be the Black and Tans or whatever, and I don't know whether the Black and Tans was English or Irish, I'm not sure. But he joined up there and was a spy for Ireland. He used to come back then and join up in back to the Irish army, and he'd been able to tell them what equipment they had to fight against the Irish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was a terrible nice old man, well liked, and had a big family, and well liked, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everyone knew him.
And what age was he around when he died?
I think he was around about 104 or 105, I'm not quite sure, but I know he was well over 100 anyway.
So he would have been the oldest traveller ever to live,
I think so, between him and my own grandfather. my own grandfather, they didn't really know what age he was, but he was around 100 as well when he died. You know what I mean?
Well, then the food and all must have been better then, and the medicines and
Well,
all
years
stuff like
ago, I was only real young, and my grandfather was with us, and I was telling him about, like, we were talking about sickness and everything, and he just said to me, Charlie, he says, do you know what's killing the people today? And I says, no. He said, the food they're eating. Because he says, the chemicals they're thrown in the land, and then he said, not alone that, if you're married, your wife will go into a supermarket or a shop or something, he says, and buy a dinner, and it's thrown into the microwave, and 2 minutes later you get that dinner out. You don't really know, he said, what's in that dinner.
Yeah.
Because you're only tasting the sauces that's in it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And what about the dinners years ago they had?
well, the dinners years ago, it'd be a big pot. And there could be a half pig's head thrown into the pot and boiled, a head of cabbage, and a load of spuds. And that was all boiled up. Well, if you didn't eat it, you just died with the hunger. Some of the two you had to eat it. There was no special food.
Yeah.
You know that way.
Yeah.
You know. You
And
just but going out with young
woman, you know, like, knowing you're going out, like,
Yeah.
what way would the fathers react, like?
Yeah, well, I remember one time, and I was only young, and this same girl was only young, but her mother wouldn't leave her move anywhere from the place, from the caravan. I wouldn't leave her talk to any young lad. But for some reason or another, she took a liking to me. And she'd leave her go. So I asked her, there was a pictures on one night, picture hall in Drogheda, and I asked her, could I bring her to the pictures? And she asked me what time was the pictures over at, and I said around 11:30. As long as you're back here, she said, as soon as the pictures is over. So I did. We went on to the pictures and enjoyed the film and enjoyed our night, and we came home. And a few nights later, that time, and even up to this day, travellers is very fond of Elvis Presley. Always was. Elvis was their famous. But there was a film of Elvis on, and I went and asked her mother again, could I take her to the pictures? And she says, yeah. So I went on to the pictures, but there was another friend of mine. He was a good bit older than myself. Anyway, I was only a kid, but there was another friend of mine, and he took a liking to this girl. I wasn't going out with her. I was just more or less as a friend of hers. And he took a liking to her, and he says to me, Charlie, I was going out to the shop to get 2 ice creams. He said, listen, I'll pay for the ice creams, he says, and can you sit in your own? And I'll sit with the girl. I says, I don't mind. I said, sure. So he says, right, so he did. And they got on great. So a couple of nights later, we went back to the same cinema, and he was there, and he said to me, listen, Charlie, we're going to leave the cinema at such a time, and when it's over, will you stand outside and wait till we come back? I'll be back about 11:30, which is the pictures will be only maybe shortly over then. I waited there till 20, I was there till 12:20, and ended up it was 1:15 when he came back. Now I don't know where he went, but he must have having a good time anyway. No, and they took off from that. They ended up getting married to one another and stayed for years and years together anyway.
Yeah.
And the girl herself then, that time she was only a young girl. Now she's a big enough age now, but still flying around like she was at them days, and she was only young.
Daddy, thanks very much, and those memories now will always live there on that camera.
That's grand. I just keep the travelling side up.